November 1st, 2012, Acton Planning Board. Take a minute to read the minutes, please, and then I'll take a motion. Zip, 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 zip. Both you alts can vote tonight. How's that make it?
They need to know who they're voting for so they can decide how to vote.
They're voting for two of the regular members that aren't here. Take your pick, Yoli, Jessica, or TC.
No, in time, usually when he's not here, he calls.
He'll be here, he's just late. And Yoli, well, he lives next door.
Still has time.
We'll have to make sure that they erase that from the tape.
We have a quorum.
Yeah,
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
is there a second?
A second.
Any changes or corrections? All's in favor, aye? All's opposed, nay? Okay, done deal. Great. Even outside the street. Now, any new business?
I didn't hear anything.
Anything for us,
No.
Junior?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Well, then I guess it's stormwater ordinance. Did anyone else get a chance to read it? I got one, because I picked mine up. The LID guidance manual for Maine communities, published, as a matter of fact, in 2007 for crying out loud. It's been out there for ages. It's probably all, what's the word?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I scratched it a little bit, but I didn't find what.
Honey, Jesus, what did I say that for? Tom, you've had it for like 7 years, and you just now scratched it?
I couldn't find what JT indicated was in there.
What do you mean?
Kenny?
I think he was just talking about the design standards.
I thought
For the various,
he made some allusion to guidance for municipalities as to how they might implement these.
There's some, in the back, there's some applications.
For individual practices, but I didn't really see them.
There's
I didn't see what we were looking for. But
well,
maybe it's in.
the only thing, on page 5, 1.4, regulatory implementation. I mean, there's a,
Says we can do it.
yeah, it says what you can apply it to, and how you can, you know, they claim you can easily work it into your existing ordinances.
Right. And we've been trying to do that.
Well,
I was hoping for a little more illumination on this thing. Didn't
well, then let's just throw it out.
provide it. Linda coming in tonight?
No, I don't believe so.
Don't know.
you know, the appendix is some of these forms that you might.
I only read up to chapter 5. I didn't get into the practice profiles. So then we got the appendices. So of course, from all these points, blah, 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 blah. You know what they do? Well, yeah. Well, so there's a couple of forms that we could use, I suppose, but as far as, you know, actually the one that's, appendix B1 is really pretty good, because it lays out what the criteria are. The end of the book, under applications.
I guess that's what we're gonna have.
This might be something, yeah, this might be something we might want to just cop, you know, for residential
I didn't understand the 5A. The blocks that you're,
What page?
the one right there, the one of two.
Oh, lit standards?
Yeah, the box, you have like boxes to check off and every other word.
No, I think
Oh, yeah.
that's, I think
That's
that's
a
some
typo.
kind of
It's some kind of, no, but it's some kind of,
It's a typo.
it's a, yes, it's some kind of a,
some kind of,
language.
it's a funky code.
Oh, his is different.
Oh.
Skip to section 6 after you've completed this section. The rest of us.
Oh, and just to get printed out. Wow.
Don't know rates.
Apparently not me.
Is that the wording on all of those instances?
That was the only one that, yeah.
Well, there's one on 5B.
5B also.
So it's
Which is
same thing, go to section 6 after you've completed the section.
Section there called approaches from.
Isn't that funny?
You're gonna go either to 5A or 5B based
No,
on
no, no.
project. and-
Yep, the decision tree as you're working your way down.
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay, that's what he refers to in here, approaches from information.
He may mean, the only thing we got here is benefits and, oh no. Concept and application, regulatory implementation, 104. But that's only 2 paragraphs. Go
All
ahead, Kevin.
instances, it's to read, skip to section 6 after completing the following section? Is that what it is?
Go to section 6 after you have completed this section, yes.
Nice.
Where is 6?
It's right, you can't see the surface. It's right
On the impervious surface.
Oh, yeah. No, site plans. 6 is site plans.
Oh, yeah, it's in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's 7,
6 and 7.
Who put these together? Wait a minute.
I did.
Sorry.
Did I do something wrong?
No. Oh, there, if you really fold the devil out, you can see it. We just couldn't find 6, that's why.
You're just gonna staple next time.
Yeah, this is kind of fancy for us.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So we're looking at page 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 of LID application form, new residential development, is that correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it just looks like something that would be rather useful for us, if this thing gets implemented.
My notes, there's a big question mark, and the reason we're looking at this is on page 6 of 10 on the draft. Is that what you showed me? Page 6 and under A. I think that's where it is.
Which version are you on?
I'm on
What's the date
September
here? Okay,
September 13th, draft 2.
I think Earth's
No impact development plan for stormwater in accordance with the LID manual, and that, I think that's why we're
Exactly.
here with the
Yeah, that's what you showed me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's here.
There's no one after one.
February.
Well, should we kind of walk through this application form and see if it's something we need to amend or what we want to consider?
Well,
Should we bring this back to the next meeting?
yeah, we may want to, yeah. I think we ought to give everybody a chance to read it, get the missing members an opportunity to weigh in.
Because that 5A and 5B is really the meat and potato of it. And
Right.
we want to know how that conforms to JT's work, right?
Well, my guess is This stuff is what was in the original ordinance, and I'm sure that that's what JT is using. Yeah, this is the criteria for who has to do this. And this is what FB did, and then JT just took theirs and just, took out the extra words and said, here. And if, let's see, where does this go then? Oh wait, this is the original one, isn't it?
Just a quick question,
Where
Mark.
did you put this thing?
What is the difference, because I don't recall this, between basic LID standards and alternative LID standards? Is that addressed in our model?
Maybe in the definitions, though.
I remember something about, we should really meet every day.
Yeah. Look on page 9 of the manual.
Oh, JT's work?
No, on the manual,
Oh,
basic LID standard. Alternative LID standard, that's on page 10.
Oh, this manual. Yeah. And it does, or there are definitions of all this stuff too, isn't there, in the back?
Okay.
And I don't think the numbers are going to match up from what we've got as far as the disturbed area, the 15,000 square feet. I know GT talked about it, and I think the board kind of leaned into, it's 10,000. On slopes of 15% or less.
Right.
Greater than the 15% was 2,000.
Should you have a 15% slope in any of the definitions, or should you implement practices that are appropriate to whatever the slope might be?
I think that's the difference probably with the basic and then the, I'm trying to do.
Well now, okay, yeah, you were looking at page 10, weren't you? It's just another way of, it's another way of calculating if you don't have if the slope isn't an issue. This way you're just adding up all your impervious
Yeah.
and dealing with it that way.
Just give more flexibility to the applicant, I guess, and Kenny.
Well, yeah, specifically though, if the slope's not an issue. Like the sidewalk we did, there wasn't really too much, well, I guess down towards the bottom, I got a little bit of a slope, but for the most part, it wasn't that bad. So a person like that may want to look at the alternative standards, find out how much impervious areas they have, and then deal with it that way. But,
It's almost like the basic is a prescriptive based and the alternative is a performance based. Prescriptive, they're kind of telling you how to do it, and the performance is an engineer is going to do the calculation for the half-inch of rain runoff
right.
and the 0.2 inches of runoff. So that looks like an engineer could do it versus the first one is layman's term.
Yeah, I wonder what what qualifies you using either A or B.
That's probably your choice.
Good, well, yeah, because right above A, it says this project will meet, pick one, basic LID standards, A, 5A, or alternative LID standards, 5B.
Well, you might have, it talks about, just as, what you have differing slopes on that site we went to. If you got water running off the front of a roof and off the back of a roof into different types of situations.
Yeah.
So that different types of practices might be appropriate to each situation.
The difference with somebody doing a rain garden, a rain garden, and then doing the infiltration beds underneath. Buying the detention pond and putting it in.
It's a little confusing when you come upon the sentence, the second sentence under 2.2 on page 10. In situations where the basic LID standards are not met on a project, the project must meet the following basic LID standards. Okay. Moving on. Well, this is going to take a little time to digest, I think.
And it's just really a guidance manual, it's not something that we have to,
But, you can still tweak it to fit the
well,
template.
yeah, we can maybe, if this gets implemented, then we can, use this to deal with it.
So in here where they say disturbed pervious areas of the site, and they got lawn in parentheses.
What page?
Page 10, under alternative LID standards,
All right.
the top bullet.
With an asterisk.
Yeah, I've seen that before. So are they implying that that's the only type of impervious, disturbed impervious areas of lawn? Undisturbed.
I think like a path could be a disturbed pervious too, if it's not like heavily used, so it's somewhat compacted.
But what's for the purpose of this document here?
So disturbed pervious.
Disturbed pervious area, any area of land that was disturbed during the development project that remains pervious after the project. Designed to include, without limitation, lawns and other landscaped areas. It's defined in main chapter 500 L stormwater management section 3.
Yeah, because we don't have a definition for lawn in here. And I don't see where the asterisk is a little, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right down.
No,
Right below it
it's
has
the
a
latter
number.
portion, yeah.
So what does that mean? Must treat 1 inch of runoff.
As opposed to half an inch.
So in other words, you don't have to deal with a half inch, you just have to deal with an inch. And with 0.4 inches from disturbed pervious surfaces.
Is that an inch of rain? Does it say rain?
No, 1 inch of runoff.
Runoff.
So, I don't know.
Snow melt?
Right.
Right,
Could
there's
be anything.
different types of runoff, That they would have to make their system a little more beefy to take an inch instead of half an inch.
Remember we talked
Because
about
they're in
earlier
these
as
areas
far as calculating
calculated.
that, you would
We were
have
talking
to
about that
JT.
before.
Yeah.
Because it seems, because you think about all the rain events, a lot of times we get more than half an inch of rain. So it's like, wouldn't it make sense our system could incorporate that inch that we get more often than half an inch,
But that's usually figured as a 25-year storm or a 50-year storm events
yeah,
versus runoff events.
right. And they,
I mean, commercially.
we
they
asked
look
someone
at-
about the snow and they.
Yeah, I was gonna
didn't
say
say
commercially,
much.
they look at where you're putting the snow and piling it up, giving you an area to put the snow and, because when it melts, it's gonna go somewhere.
It's a lot of water for clearing big area.
This is it. Didn't have to take a shower? Yeah, well, I think we ought to, try to get through it on your own, and if anything jumps out at you, make a note of it.
Are there any notions pertaining to this agreement or the manner in which it's implemented that we might just try to tack up on the board, so to speak, as fixed points that we might reach consensus on? Just to try and move forward a little bit tonight, I don't know. We got into it a little bit last time we met with you, Kenny, about an initial agreement versus site visit afterwards, and there was a lot going on in terms of
The actual enforcement of it
yeah,
as
yeah.
required.
Yeah, I thought we'd come up with some points that I didn't see in the minutes that we were gonna try and poke around at. And one was that the initial agreement might include, obviously, a description of the proposed practices that are going on, but would also include either a means to implement fees based upon each BMP that was on the Durham model or something.
Yeah.
And then the application would incorporate an agreement between your office and the applicant for post-development visits. So you could front end load, so to speak, the tools that you need, so you wouldn't have to go chasing and implementing things after the fact. It just seems in that application, if you can do more of those things, it would be, the more clean you can make it for the applicant, I think.
Part of it, on this appendix, they've got at the very bottom, an operations and maintenance plan as part of the application.
That sounds
It says the operations and maintenance plan narrative is attached, describes the responsible party for ensuring maintenance occurs.
Where are you?
The number 7 that was hard to find on page 2 of 2, in the last, appendix B, I think, right? B.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm with
So, what you're getting at is some sort of fee.
you. Well, we knocked around maybe following and I think it was a model that we found from, Forrest had looked at it as part of his work, that there was, for each BMP that you implemented on the site, there was a calculated, and there's means to derive those numbers out of this book, because they talk about different BMPs and what they might initially cost to put in. But our consideration is on behalf of Kenny's office, how, and the town, how are you gonna follow up and make sure that these things are operating and being maintained, operating as designed, first of all?
Well, what you do is you, in all building fees, building permit fees, because I think keeping the lakes clean is to everybody's benefit, not just
Right.
those that are gonna be doing the practices. So you build into the permit fees enough to pay somebody on every 3rd year or every 5th year, whatever it is, to go around and inspect all of the projects.
A one-time fee at the beginning?
No, any building permit fee.
So,
Oh, even if you're not,
Even
Yeah,
if
even
you're
if
not,
you're not-
because
even
it's,
if you're
I mean,
not
to me,
doing
it's
this.
the public good.
Yeah.
Keeping the water clean is the public good,
that
and
is,
so it ought to be, the burden in terms of dollars ought to be
Yeah.
spread amongst the public.
the state implemented a $15 fee to septic systems for water quality, even though they're not in the shoreline or something, so that money just shuffles over to the DEP.
Same idea.
It's like what the telephone company does, they add all these extra fees and taxes on your bill, you know, universal connectivity and
Yeah.
this, that, and the next thing, it's a fee that everybody would pay when they get a building permit, whether they're
Yeah,
putting
to
up
offset the
a
cost.
percentage, whether they're putting up, or maybe either a percentage or probably a set amount maybe.
Yep.
You know, whether they're doing a deck or they're building a house.
Or at that rate, you could even factor, whatever the number is, $10,000 into the budget, and it would add a half a penny to the tax rate, or, $5 to everybody's tax bill. Because it's not the building permits constantly using this. I mean, if you build a shed on your property, it's really not. I mean,
It's
it
a
would be-
one-time only
it
deal
would
too.
be- Yeah, so if you never came in, if you never come in and got a permit, then you're not offsetting the cost.
Right, right.
Versus just putting it into the budget.
Well, see, that's the way I operate.
I know, I'm trying to keep an eye on you.
It's
Love snow.
about the shed. How many sheds have you built?
Cheers.
If we were to think that through, could we come up with a relative figure?
That's what we've always talked about from the beginning, how much is it, how much time, and it's not much the first year or the second year, maybe about the third or the fourth,
Yeah, yeah.
now you're generating that.
But you could build that kitty.
What is the task that we're actually trying to raise revenue for?
Inspection. Everything that you build to offset runoff needs to be inspected in perpetuity, forever, because none of these things are a one-time only deal. Even a frickin' riprap bullshit has to be checked at some point for, sorry.
We're on 18
Has to
minutes.
be, has to be checked, cleaned out or whatnot, so everything has to be inspected, some more than others, depending on what kind of stuff you're using. But everything that's designed has to be inspected at some point, and that's gonna cost money. Now, some of them will be simple, other ones may be more involved. If they have some kind of a pre-treatment for their septic or something, there may be more people or issues involved, in inspecting that or getting the okay on that or whatever. So, I don't know if a set fee would do it, or maybe depending on what.
Well, you could have a line in the budget for you, and you could specifically take the salary from that line for those inspections, you could see it from there too.
Yeah.
But then we've always looked at, okay, now we know who doesn't do them, now we're gonna send them letters, and
And then if they ignore it, then blah, blah, what are we gonna do? Take them to court? Shh. So then we got, boom, lawyer's fees and everything else.
But that particular point there is where if you had some front-end language, so to speak, in the application, giving you permission to visit the site, given that these requirements have not been met or something, I think you could, that whole thing we were getting into the other night about easements and stuff, that's just a can of worms.
Well, you retain some kind of rights to visit properties, don't you? Or is that just
if you
one?
have a permit out, then I can enter the property and go look at the permit. Or I have the same rights as the mailman, I can go knock on the door.
Well, we might want to introduce some language in this ordinance then, that if you implement any of these practices, then the town retains the right, reserves the right, whatever it is, to periodically inspect whatever you did, to make sure that it's working correctly.
This might be a little, that specific point, the legal point might be something that MMA, if we could craft the question accurately, could answer for us without costing anything.
Sure.
Because we do, I think we need some legal advice here.
Well, then if
If we wrote it into the ordinance, and if somebody getting a permit
it's on the permit.
realizes this is there, then, you know, that's it, that's, you know, if they're gonna do this,
Right.
you let them know that eventually, we're gonna inspect this.
And I mean, you could have the verbiage in there that forever and ever, we can come and inspect this, and if you don't do it, then we can have it fixed and give you the bill. But again, as soon as that guy sells that house, the new guy has no idea about it, unless we attach it into the deed. You know, and that's where it gets tough.
But if they get a permit to do something though,
Yeah.
there's a copy here, correct?
Correct.
So, the town would always have a copy of 2745 H Road and the work that it was done,
Yeah, and the condition.
regardless of who buys it from me down the road. And if it was gonna be inspected every 3 years or every 5 years, depending on what we did there, then you would just automatically go out there or let the new homeowner, whoever was there, know that, you know, this was done on your property and the town has the right to inspect it, blah, blah, blah. Here's a copy of the initial thing, come on in and get one or I'll send one to you. And that we could do without the deed,
Excuse me.
because that's gonna cost money.
Mhm.
Ken, how do you handle that in terms of something like holding fees, which might be a parallel kind of a processing?
What kind of fees?
Holding tanks. No,
Oh.
not fees,
Holding tanks.
inspection.
A holding tank, by state law, you have to enter into an agreement with a pumper, a septic pumper.
Yeah.
Now, that septic pumper, by law, has to pump that every year, and as soon as he doesn't do it, he has to notify us that first year. So, one, he's not getting the business, so he's gonna call and say, I need to come out and pump, and if he's told no, then he's, by law, he's supposed to tell us, they're not calling me this year.
And that's how we find out. And
And
then,
that's how we find
and
out.
then what happens?
We've never had one, they've always pumped them out. every
Well,
year.
what would happen, do you know what the process is then?
We'd notify them that we need their records to see their pumping, because they may have switched to a different company, and then they'd give us the records for that, otherwise it'd be a violation.
All right.
And how is that information and that process passed from owner A to owner B? How do they, it's the onus of the pumper really to initiate
Correct,
the notification.
yeah.
So the pumper's gonna get in touch with the new owner, say it's time to come and pump you.
I'm just wondering if there's a corollary that we can look at here, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's similar to a 55 and older community. They're kind of in the deeds, but it's a condition on the permits. But, I mean, people have bought into them and not realized that it's a 55 and older community.
Well, there's some things we can scratch out tonight that we can kind of, to lay a little foundation for where we want to go with this.
Before we switch to that though, if we go back to the thought, I mean, I know you tend to think maybe you go to the text, but if we were to do it by the permits, about how many permits are issued a year?
In the shoreline zone?
No, we're gonna open this up to everybody, I thought, right?
Oh, as far as fee
As far as
basis?
the fee,
So I mean, are we talking 500, are we talking 50?
I mean, if you bring in electrical, mechanical, some permits or several permits into
Mhm.
one permit, yeah, probably 300 to 500
3 to 500?
on individual. 100 building permits, and then add on to that all the
Yeah,
other sub-permits
So
to it.
if you tacked on $5 or $10, you'd be putting $5,000 in a kitty towards inspecting these.
yeah, but if you're gonna charge somebody X amount if they pull out a building permit, are you also gonna charge them X amount for their electrical that goes with that, and for their plumbing that goes with that?
When you added a fee. I think I'd look at it as a LID fee, similar to a best possible location, 30%, shoreline zoning, LID, $100, whatever it is, it's into the fee schedule. Now, that money's not going to go into this account for me to go out and do the inspections.
Right.
This money's going into the general fund.
Sure.
Yeah,
But then you can still do it because,
well, we have
It
to,
depends,
Then
the
we-
selectmen would say, we want to up you from your 25 to 35 hours, and we want to increase this,
Oh.
or they could say, this money's going into general fund, we're all set with how it is.
yeah,
then, like you were saying before, we have to create a line in our budget for this inspection.
And you could have a third-party person come in too.
Yeah, right, just, it doesn't make any difference who
Yeah.
does it, but there would have to be a line, and then they would have to take the money out of the general fund and
Yeah.
put it in the planning board budget,
Right,
or
but
the
it-
code budget.
Right, if it was just us doing it, it'd just be in our salary line, and it would
Right.
just be another task that we would be doing.
Right.
So,
So at that point, it would just be into the regular budget itself, and our fees would just be offsetting our, the cost of the town.
Right.
so let's start with, the task that has to be performed with the fees. And that falls on the town. Is it totally out of your office, or something you'd have to, it may involve somebody like Joe from SCS?
It would probably depend on the level of work that was done.
The LMEs,
Yeah.
whether they're below grade or above grade. I think it's pretty easy to simple to go out and look and see a bunch of riprap that's been laid in a trench and see silt, up and above, and say that's not maintained. That's easy enough. It's the biodetention stuff and the stuff that would be subgrade that'd be a little harder to see.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy to tell that's not being maintained. You need to get those leaves out of there, you need to do this, you need to do that. Then I guess, then it would just be, if it was in the ordinance and the verbiage was, if it's not being maintained, it's a violation of the ordinance, then that's $275 a day. A zoning violation is $275.
Yeah, after we take them to court and we win. We can't charge them until we take them to court.
We could charge them from the date of the letter, the verbiage would be in that. You can do a consent agreement, which you can make any number you want whatsoever to keep you out of court, and it would just be an agreement between the person and the town that we didn't take them to court in a
Right.
consent agreement. But the end result is that the thing's maintained. That's all you,
Right, right,
that's all you really care about,
Right.
is that the stuff's being maintained. So I think it's easy enough to come up with the fees or justify that the town sucks them up to keep the water quality clean. Whether we add fees to the building permits to offset it,
It's funded somehow.
or add
Align the budget
Yeah.
or whatever.
a penny to the tax rate, however it is.
If you were gonna do it through permitting, X percentage of permit cost, I would think that would be one way to address it if you were gonna do it through that venue of, if I came in and pulled a permit for a new building, and the total permit cost was with plumbing, electric, and construction permit, came to, throw me a number.
The one we did a site walk on the other day was $5,000,
The building permit, and everything, or just
everything,
the electric and plumbing and?
septic, everything, a little over 5,000, 5,300 I think.
Would you do a
Most is
percentage of permits cost?
I think if there was a line on there now, such as the 30% of the shoreline, best possible location, those are all lines that we take fees out. If we added $100 just for LID, that would probably just cover review time in my office. Reviewing the paper to follow down through and make sure that was there, maybe an initial inspection during installation. It's not gonna cover any long-term stuff.
Right.
I think you just need to add a line and, add it into the wages and suck it up.
So it would be,
Yeah,
Because it doesn't make sense that, as you're building a shed out back here, and, there's 200-300 building permits a year, but yet the whole town benefits from it. It doesn't make sense that somebody building a shed out on the back streets paying for us to maintain here versus everybody in the whole town's benefiting from it.
it's a bit of salesmanship.
But is it tax on something that's gonna get through? If you throw that word out there?
you gotta
Increase
figure
it,
it out.
well, yeah. Well, it's the spikes in, the school put on addition, the fire department bought a truck, we bought a new this, and then you add to it, and then the next year it could drop down. It's just keeping the
Yeah.
rate flat.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's gonna be, if and when this gets implemented, it's not like we're gonna have 100 inspections the first year.
Or the
It's gonna
second.
take, or the 5th or 20th.
I could
It's gonna
see
take a number of years for this to build up to the point where somebody is,
maintaining.
yeah,
I could see the first year, at least 50 installations being overseen.
really.
50 sites with multiple on it. We're probably at 40 shoreline zoning permits already from July to now.
Yeah.
So it's an easy 100 shoreline
Yeah.
permits a year, I believe. So we'd be seeing but we're out there anyways looking at foundation and building, and I think this would be an additional inspection. We wouldn't be able to combine like you would electrical, plumbing, and framing the same
Right.
time and get lucky enough. This would be an additional trip out.
Right. But, yeah, it would fall under, you know, whatever you include for the site.
The fee schedule, the inspection schedules.
Yeah, and maybe, like you said, maybe if we take $100 on or something like this,
And just go into that.
that'll give you the
offset.
initial, that'll give you the inspection and review.
Yeah,
Maybe the initial inspection while you're
get you the
checking out
first
the
year or
right.
something, yeah.
And then down the road, either see if they can't, see if the town can't kick in a few more bucks in the salary to offset going out and inspecting these that come up for inspection. And somewhere, when it gets to be a big enough deal, you know, then do something with that. But I think for the time being, just like maybe tacking $100 on, and that'll take care of most of what you would need to do at first for the first couple of
For the
years.
installation, the
Yeah.
installation's the easy part
Right,
of that.
and then down the road, you may only have to do 2 or 3 inspections the next year. And, that's,
Chip, $100 onto the applicant who was. in-
Building permit.
That would be installing
Like
LIDs.
Mr.
Yes, just-
The gentleman we saw the other day,
Yeah,
who was
Yes.
going to be installing.
just LIDs, not everybody in town right away.
But then that would be supplemented by Kenny's notion of a minuscule mill rate increase that would supplement monies needed for post-development.
Right.
inspections.
But that's gonna be a couple of years down the road, and then everybody will be paying for that.
because the
Well,
water
because it'll
quality
come
is
out of
what's
taxes.
keeping everybody that doesn't live on the water, it's keeping your tax rate down low
Right.
because of the water
Right,
quality.
right,
It's-
But you'd want to implement those two tools simultaneously, because you I think.
I did,
You
no one's
can,
gonna,
you can implement the fees on the building permit very easily
Right.
with a public hearing with the selectmen and implement that instantly.
But I think it would be an interesting concept if you presented it in tandem. Both of those revenue streams are needed simultaneously in a sense. One is you're ramping up the amount of the post-development fees, but if one is kind of, there's some equity there when the voter sees that you're asking the applicant to bear X amount of cost, and then because we all benefit from the good lake water quality, as Arthur was saying, I, who lives inland, am willing to pony up, a small amount of tax money to supplement the initial upfront cost, so to speak, that the applicant is bearing.
We need some idea, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, your idea of $100 just to review the plan, I mean, that's what we're talking about with your fee.
With the applicant,
But we need some sort of a budget in terms of what,
After.
post-development.
in order to have some idea how much you're gonna have to raise
And I
to do
mean-
these inspections.
If it was me, I would be able to, as I'm going down the road and I'm already out in the neighborhood, I'd remember that this is about 3 years old, I've got time, let me take a look while I'm going right by and, take a picture and say, oh, and go back to the files. But if it's somebody else here, it's gonna be a computer-generated thing, a special trip out, because they're not used to it yet. They haven't seen it, then.
or you mean if somebody else did the inspection,
Correct, yeah.
while you were still here, or if you're
Or if I
gone from
wasn't
department?
here, yeah, exactly. So then you'd want it, the computer saying, you gotta go out to Mr. Smith's, it's June 2015.
Oh, yeah, we're still gonna want something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But at least if I could check them off before they popped up, because I was in the neighborhood, that's gonna save a special trip.
Well, yeah, killing two birds with one stone would always help, yeah.
But my question with it too, the other aspect with it is, who's going to design these? Does it say we need a specific engineer to do them, or can the homeowner do them?
Well, we asked him about this the first time he came out, I thought.
JT you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought he said that most of these, are gonna involve some kind of, expertise with doing this, not, it's
So there would
not
just be some verbiage in here, similar to a septic system, either a certified septic designer does it, or the homeowner also is allowed to.
He's got some kind of stamp, you know what I mean? I don't-
Well, that's where I'm going, I guess. If we're looking for stamped drawings on all these, then you're gonna generate, another $3,000 to $4,000 or $5,000 into the initial aspect of it.
What are other communities doing?
I know we had
Not many
talked
really
about it,
got
and I
going with this.
I don't remember exactly how it was addressed.
I mean, most of the LIDs I've seen for larger communities have all been subdivisions, big plans anyways, and then
Right,
there's
right,
small
right.
ones and stuff like this. This is just a small scale homeowner.
Yeah, but still, even if you're gonna put in riprap, how are you, how you gonna, how big a swale are you gonna cut? And, what's the size of it?
Where does it start? Where
It's
does it
gonna
stop?
take
Yeah.
more than just, me just guessing.
What
Some
about,
homeowners.
what about the threshold of, that's going to be created this January? By the DEP dictate that says you need certification to work to disturb soil within 250 feet of the waterway.
Right, that's just a certified guy on site. Most good excavators, if it's just riprap or something like that, most good excavators can have a good rule of thumb of how deep, where to start it, how deep to bring it, where to bring it into, and a lot of it's just experience, that they did it this size, they put a 12-inch culvert in, it didn't work, so they put a 16-inch next time.
So
Do
we're,
you want to be able to review those before they're implemented? I mean, do you
These
have-
plans,
No, if an excavator came into you and said, I've got to do X, Y, and Z on this site, some LID practices,
if the LID was drawn with a stamp on it, I'd get the guy with the stamp to tell me they put in just how I told them to, at the end of the project.
so it goes back to the designer.
Designed, yeah. If it was the homeowner drawing it, then I think I'd work with them and, make sure there was fabric under the riprap and it was crushed stone and, you'd have to be more hands-on.
Yeah, but that's putting a lot on you to,
It's just like looking at the footings and looking at everything else.
Yeah, if a homeowner's designing this,
I'd rather look at a stamp plan, definitely. It'd be much easier for me.
and aren't we recommending that they work with Southern Maine?
I did talk with Acton Wakefield, Watershed Alliance, and they said they would love to draw the plans.
really?
really?
Now, that's just a kid, I'm not sure what training he has, and they would love to fill his winter with drawing this. And as we talked with maintenance with them, I think it's about $3,000 per student to take on for the summer, or employee, when I was looking at maintenance, and Linda brought up the good point that that's only half the town. It's Acton Shapley on the other side.
Right.
So, we'd have to get together with them too.
And that's just for Mouseman's Way. The two,
Probably Loon also,
yeah, right.
Upper Lower Loon on that side.
Yeah.
Ball. I don't think they do balls.
No, that's,
I don't
I
know
don't know who does balls.
Acton Wakefield may.
Well,
There's the
Saco-
Saco corridor
Saco River
monitor
is-
that goes up there.
We'd actually have to
But these guys are just drawing, similar to Joe Anderson, he's got a napkin and a Sharpie, and he's just drawing something up, and it's a good guideline, they're simple plans. They're not full blown, you know, somebody's stamping something, we're gonna get big drawn plans.
I think that the assistance that the Salt Lake Associations, what's the term of that before?
Quite a lot in this manual about practices and plan items, descriptions of installations.
I think that the AWA people and for the other watersheds, the Mountain watershed, what's the little acronym that they go by?
Acton Shapley.
Acton Shapley Youth Conservation Corps or something. I think that should be our lowest threshold in terms of
Those guys,
design.
just to accept one from a approved agency or something like
Yeah,
that, such
yeah.
as blah, blah,
Because
blah, blah.
A homeowner's, that's putting a lot on your plate.
Oh, yeah.
In my book.
Well, I think it's a little out of their, you know, unless this is what they do for a living, nobody in this room can, you know, design even a simple one,
Right.
so.
But you could go out to a site and very easily look, especially a knowledgeable excavator, say, you know, I bring a swale down here, I'd roll it this way, I try to cut something off there, and a lot of it's trial and error though.
Yeah, but,
It didn't
but
work.
and
Yeah,
that's
but that
not,
was a 1.5-inch rain event in an hour, but we only designed for a 1/2 inch, so it's designed to fail eventually anyways.
yeah, and that's, we're not looking for trial and error, we're just, you know, we want it to work from the get-go. So somebody with some expertise is gonna have to draw these up, probably even the simplest ones. Now, you know, like you said, an excavator who's put in a lot of riprap, they probably could, you know, draw one up, or, you know, write something up and
Yeah.
turn it in.
Like rip wrapping the side of a road.
Yeah.
Digging the ditch and throwing the rock
Right,
in.
and that's something you could easily, you know, look at and say, you know, this is gonna work or it's not.
Yeah.
But if you're talking rain gardens and all this other kind of weird ass stuff, you know, it's gonna need some kind of an engineer to do it, like, you know, the guy that we went on the sidewalk for, whatever they end up
His
doing.
architect,
Yeah,
which may not be knowledgeable in the stormwater practice at all.
well,
You know,
we'll
he's got
find
a
out.
stamp, but, oh, he was using somebody special. I think the architect was just like, oh,
Yeah, no, he was gonna use somebody special.
But they had somebody in-house.
Yeah, maybe, in the firm at least.
Yeah, somebody else was gonna address it, not him.
Yeah.
Well, can we have a conversation through you, or can we have, George Emery and Linda Shiner?
Yeah, I sent, Linda asked for a copy of this just to know where we were going so she could read it and review, and we could probably send her this design manual too and get some feedback from her.
Who would be the guy from, or the person from, Mountain Lake?
We just worked with the coordinator, but I think he's gone for the winter, so I'm not sure who the driving force is throughout the winter there.
What about George Emery?
Probably.
Or does Jack work on that? Is he on that board?
It wouldn't surprise me if he was.
Yeah, I think he is, but I know he's on the Lake Association.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, should we, do you want to set up a meeting with those guys, or should we have them come in and talk to us?
If you think you're ready, or I think we may need to kick this around just
Yeah,
a little
no,
bit.
I don't
know
think
what
we're ready
the book
to get
says and-
20 more people in here that
Yeah.
don't know what it is yet. It will just be, you know, wasting everybody's time. If you want to send a copy of this stuff to
Yeah,
Linda.
she's already requested this one
Right.
here, and I think, did we send one of these to Acton Wakefield Watershed? Yeah, so we'll send one of these to her, and then we'll also send the design manual.
And if she wants to make copies and pass it around to
Yeah.
people, that's fine with us.
Yeah, and it's just the availability of having a list of, you know, UNH stormwater, York County Water and Soil, just a list so they can find somebody and be able to contact, get people out there within a month's time.
Right.
The maintenance and inspection on some of this stuff is a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, well, that's because there's
Until it gets into mechanical.
some of these things are really involved.
Well, it's got this bio retention system.
Yeah.
Inspect at least twice or more during the 6 months after construction, annually thereafter and following precipitation events of at least a ½ inch.
Which is something we do during rain events now anyway. We'll go to the main construction projects, just check their erosion control, stuff like that, during the day after the heavy rain or something like that.
Well, yeah, but this is talking about, you
This is
know,
inspection of the LID.
yeah, after, 5 years down the road, after a ½ inch rain, they want you to go out and look at it. So that is gonna be a pain in the ear.
So, I'm trying to tie some of these things down. Do we have some kind of consensus on the notion of an upfront fee to an applicant, and then to assist in that, an increase in the mill rate of whatever?
Or just an increase in the budget.
Yeah, just put a line above it.
Yeah,
Which you would just be, the selectmen support it and the budget
it's a
committee.
lot safer.
Budget committee would support it, and then the voters vote on the whole budget in general, not line by line.
Because it's nothing that, we're not getting a ton of money to begin with. And if you put a 1% on, on tax bills, there's a big chunk of dough that's going into the general fund that's not being used, and nobody likes to see money go in there if it's not being used for what it's supposed to be used for.
Right.
Because none of this stuff carries over either.
I was gonna say, if
You
you
can't
know,
have an account or something?
Well,
a rollover, no, not usually.
they're tough to
Yeah.
get, they don't like them.
If we started implementing fees, they're going into the general fund, we're automatically, but we'd have to wait till July to raise the budget lines for the money for next year.
Right.
But the fees would automatically start going into the general fund as soon as you started it.
Yep.
But the line item stream would have to be,
So you still have to have budget, so you have to have a line in the budget one way or the other for these inspections. You can't,
Well,
Yes,
otherwise-
it's in our, it would be in our budget. Let's say we've got a budget now for code enforcement, for lawyers' fees is, X amount of dollars. We throw in another line there, inspection fees for LIDs, $3,000. And the selectmen would decide that, they can get the $3,000 okay, or, we'll have to, the budget's gonna have to increase. There's no way to eat this
$3,000.
$3,000, we'll have to tack it on to, the total taxes. So,
I mean, it's in the, like a somewhat of an offsetting, if you're increasing your revenue side with fees, then there's somewhat of an
offset by
offset to the line in the budget.
yes, but that's being used though. The initial, let's say we charge $100 on a shoreline zone building permit for the LID stuff.
Yeah.
That's gonna get eaten up pretty much that first year in reviewing it, making the initial inspection and whatnot. That's not something that, it only costs $25 to review it, and we've still got $75 to deal with. That's gonna get eaten up pretty much right away.
but the other issue is and we have an example of this from the remediation costs from when Boston was deemed a lake at risk. Pat Baldwin has told me numerous occasions that between state, federal, and local monies, they had to raise close to $750,000 to turn that thing around. And those state and federal monies would not be available. We would have to be dipping into municipal funds if we came close to a situation where you know, you had an algae bloom, say, on Loon Pond or something, which probably isn't too far away. So you're offsetting a probable risk that is in the future if you're not proactive on these things. I think that's the way you'd have to look at it.
But if we're setting this thing up to start the tax, to me, it just doesn't make sense to start it this year, let's say, if we're not gonna use it for 3 years or 5 years, if all it's gonna do is go back into the general fund, and then the next year they can say, oh, well, you didn't use it, you don't need it, so it's never gonna go anymore.
Yeah, they're out of
Right, right, see, that's what I'm thinking, that's why it wouldn't necessarily be a tax, we would just, eventually, the first year you may want $500 on the inspection line for some reason. And, you know, maybe, you know, that's no big deal, putting that somewhere in the budget. But in 7 or 8 years, you may end up needing $10,000 for inspections. It may be a big deal. Some of these may have to be reviewed by some kind of an agency that costs money. So then that gets to the point where, you know, our taxes are gonna be going up. Not specifically for this, but this is gonna be part of the things that raise taxes. I mean, salary increases every year, you know, the taxes go up. It's not specifically 3% of your tax bill goes to salaries, a portion of it does. But there's always an increase. And this would be an inspection fee that just, over time, keeps getting larger. But as far as a specific, 1% of your tax bill goes to these LID inspections, I don't think that's anything we even want to mess with. We don't have to.
You
It's
just put a line in the budget for what you think.
right, for what you think you need, and it'll get, they'll either okay it, approve it, or they won't.
And then the next year you adjust it as you need to go up or down,
Right.
depending on what you think.
Right.
Well, what about Bob's notion of putting that in the, appealing to the good sense of the select board and say, this line item should be carried over?
Oh, rollover accounts,
Oh.
they're really difficult. I'm not sure it's state law in Maine, but it's tough to have an account that just rolls over.
Right. It's just something they don't do, and it's no big deal. I mean, if we don't use everything in code enforcement in the line, it just goes back to the general fund, and next year, you know, he just writes his budget for whatever it is he needs. You don't need it to roll over. That's why you wouldn't want to put in a ton of money for this one line and then not use it. Because that's the one that they're gonna cut. When they have to cut, they say, Jesus, you got $5,000 here, for 2 years you've only used $50. You know, we're cutting that down to zip. So it's just a line that will add to the code enforcement budget that, you know, LID inspections. And the first couple of years, it'll be probably a small amount. Eventually, it'll get larger. Just like salaries do, you know, an initial salary is X, you work there for 20 years, you know, you're paid a lot more, all right?
But when you put a budget in, don't they look at it and say, nah, I don't think so, we're gonna cut it 8% or whatever?
They would usually look at the expenditures the prior year and see that you didn't spend it, and then would be looking at cutting it dollar-wise, not percent-wise.
Right. Yeah, if you
But
did
if you're
use it,
using it all, mileage, say the mileage line or something like that, if you're using it all and running over, usually they're not gonna cut it, they're gonna use common sense and say.
because they know that it's something that has to be done.
And
I mean, if he's
offset
gonna
by
do
revenue.
these inspections, he needs the mileage there.
Sure, it's
That's
more time, too.
part of the deal, you're right.
Yeah, but a lot of it's gonna be education at the first part, when they come in, and I mentioned LID, they've never heard of it.
Right.
You know, we just educated them on the 30%, the 20%, the LID, so that's gonna.
Well, they'll get their education when we start having public hearings on this, because we still have to get accepted at town meeting.
Most people that are going to have to install these LIDs will not be at the public hearings.
Oh, no, I was talking to the selectmen, I was
Yeah.
talking about the selectmen.
Yeah,
I think this board of selectmen understands this issue.
yeah, I think most of the people, the residents too, and the waterfront
Sure
people,
they do.
all the taxpayers, they really understand.
Right.
Because if you're not on the water, and the water goes bad, your taxes are going through the roof. That's what's keeping your taxes down right now, because it's the good water quality and all that.
The town still needs to have this amount of money, whether it gets 90% of it or whatever the number is from the people on the lake. And, well, let's say 60-40, 60 from the lake and 40 from everybody in country. If the lakes go to hell, they still need this amount of money, so they may end up flipping 60
Yeah,
for
the
the
assessments
people
will
in
drop
country.
on the lakes, and then ours would.
And they'll have to go up for the people inland,
Yeah,
because they still have to have this amount of money.
whatever's approved at town meeting.
Right.
Well, can you help us refine that? The two pieces of that then, the upfront fee, what that would be proposed, you know, as based on some kind of sliding scale to the applicant, and then the line item number. How you want to work
I would think the $100 for an LID, I don't think I'd nickel and dime them. I think New Durham was $15 for one and $25 for another, and you'd go through and count them all up on the property. I just have a flat rate right through for it.
I think that might be easier starting out anyway.
Yeah.
If down the road, if we find out that there's a better way to do it, then we can always change it.
Exactly.
Because fees are a simple thing to implement, basically.
But we need to implement the ordinance before we implement the fees.
Yes, I am.
Well, no, not really. I think we could change it to anything. You could add,
Just add $100 and give it a different name.
shoreline zoning, erosion control or whatever.
Ooh, good one.
But you could do some noodling around and come up with a,
He just did, $100.
no, a line item number.
Oh,
Chip did the first year, $50. I think
yeah,
he said.
right, you're not
The
gonna.
bottom line budget, we'll shuffle it over.
You must have some ballpark kind of idea, maybe
Um,
of additional
Time and
expense.
effort. And it's all gonna go with the economy too, how busy things are getting and stuff like that. But we run about 100 shoreline zoning permits a year.
Anything is possible now.
So that's
So they're not
activity
gonna
of the
have to get
shoreline.
inspected till the following year.
They would have to get inspection for the implementation, the design of it.
So is that the $100
I think,
fee, is that gonna cover your time on the application and the initial inspection? Or not?
probably not. But I think they would just offset it good enough to implement it. It's just like zoning, we have no fee for zoning, but to enforce it, the town sucks it up.
What do you mean zoning?
Zoning, somebody has 5 junk cars or whatever or something, there's no
What, you
offset.
got it on my place?
Yeah, and they're hard to find, but I can now that the leaves are off, we do the snow counts. But, we have to go out, we have to send letters and all that, and just get them cleaned up, that takes time, effort,
Right.
money, but we don't get any, revenue out of it. So, because you have zoning, you have to suck it up.
Yes.
It costs you X amount of dollars, and you're not gonna get anything out of it, except for the implementation of it.
Just comes out of the budget.
Comes out of the budget.
Yeah, but there may be some LIDs that are real simple, like just a simple riprap deal. One little swale with some riprap. That would take them all in 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it is. And that, $100, there's a lot extra there. But something that's more involved, that some guy engineered, that you have to spend some time dealing with, that's gonna eat up the whole $100. So they may end up, for at least the first year or two, the learning curve, they may balance themselves out.
I think, the $100 I could spend with an applicant in the office, explain what LIDs are. And why to.
Well, don't give me so much candy.
But no candy in my budget.
What is going to be the criteria for, and the authority for making the decision for, you can go to AWAR or MLRA for your design, but you have to give me something.
Exactly, that's what we need, that's kind of missing in this, that I'm not really seeing, is when we have a low-level one, without just simple saying, the original one, I forget the terminologies they were using, but they were very confusing for the multiple levels of the
Based on
project.
site impact.
But based on site impact, and the degree of the slope, and the amount of stuff that you're implementing into it.
we'll have to.
Well, I know that we asked Jen Jesperson initially, we asked her about this.
That
Who,
was incidental and non-incidental.
Yes.
well, even that though, you know, who's gonna design these? And she
Well-
said something at some point, and I don't know.
Well, I remember that.
Our office.
No.
No, there was, the lower threshold ones would be the kind of things that we're proposing that they're not lake associations, what are these people? Lake Conservation Corps, the two lake
Oh, the
conservation corps.
CCC kids?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
The lower threshold disturbance could be designed by them, but the higher threshold has to be, and we're gonna have to devise where that line is.
With a PE,
Yeah,
any engineer.
yeah. So that would be something specifically that we have to kind of hold in on this. At what level of disturbance do you need to
How
apply?
many square feet and how steep is the slope?
Yeah, okay. So that's-
And essentially, you would use those same numbers that he's talking about? You know, that 2,000 square foot area and 50% and whatever on page 7?
Yeah. Which is different than the manual, the LID manual. but-
That's in JT's thing, Bob?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
page 7?
I think originally he was at 15,000 square feet because he was just grabbing the stuff from Forest Bell. And then he mentioned that, 15,000 square feet's huge.
Up at the top.
What does he call those two levels? There's no real name for it, it's just small I singly and. Does he have a name for those two conditions? Or what is the thing that triggers the more rigorous review?
well, C says that you have to go to code enforcement review if you're one of these two things.
Those are the, A, B, and C are the three conditions that have to be met for a project to be exempted from the standards of subsection 4. That's all.
And the 10,000 square feet, 75 feet by 125 isn't even 10,000. And as when it was at 15,000, we reduced it down. It's a quarter of an acre.
Almost, yeah. So it's fairly big for a lot of the lots you're talking about.
For a 50 by 100 lot.
Yeah. It's bigger than some of the lots, but.
Okay, I can't. It's going past my bedtime.
All it needs is beauty sleep.
I do. I still wake up early.
Well, I think if we can see that, if you want to just email the couple of missing members and say, come on and pick up your
Handbook,
handbook
homework.
and try and peruse it between now and next meeting. And, flag or highlight whatever in here you have an issue with or you think is something that we could specifically use.
What are maybe one or two of our outstanding questions that we have to kind of at least put some fences around next time we meet?
When a design professional is required
Right.
versus a homeowner design,
Well, we'll call them the Lake Conservation Corps. We agreed that that would be the lowest threshold. I think that's good. Because they would still bring a level of expertise probably in to that design, and Justin, Dustin, what is his name?
There's one of each.
Okay.
What's involved in getting a DEP stormwater permit?
It's, your engineers would design it, fill out the permits, and that's a 25-year storm, I think those will run out.
So that's one level, and it's already in here, right?
The DEP permit, that's usually something that the subdivision gets.
It's right in here.
Where are you?
Stormwater runoff, all new construction and redevelopment.
What page are you?
Page 5.
September?
Yes. .25. So if you go to 3, you've got one level that requires a DEP stormwater permit.
Any development that requires a DEP stormwater permit, then you'll have, then this stuff will kick in. But if your project doesn't require a permit, you don't necessarily,
And you want 4.
it doesn't jump out at, the stormwater runoff thing doesn't jump out.
Then you
Yeah,
get
I guess,
4.
yeah, then you get on the
Yeah,
front,
right,
yeah.
Ford, you got choices there. Couple of things, choices.
What about the point that we were talking about the other day? I think this is an opportune time to bring it up. About best possible location. Just as another threshold.
Mm-hmm. I was just like we're thinking about site visits too, with the best possible locations, maybe we put some sort of line there where we say, you know, I was thinking if they're putting a new foundation in and they're moving the whole camp, there should be a site walk, but if they're getting a new pump house and it's on the same pump house foundation, they're not even getting a new pump, you know, smaller, we wouldn't be going on the sidewalk. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah.
It's something like that, where we have threshold that would help us determine if we want a sidewalk. We could always go look at the pump house if we wanted to, but if they were moving the whole camp and it was the best possible location with the 30%, or if they didn't want to do the 30%, they were still putting a foundation in and going through the process, that we would look at those ones. It would just be kind of be part of the.
That's just a policy with the board, that's not an ordinance. It'll just be a policy, and if that's something you want to do, I'll say it again, I think you guys need to schedule a couple of more meetings a month on Monday afternoons or whatever, because as it comes
Just
up.
a time that we would fill that in.
Or not show up at all, okay, you know, it's just a regularly scheduled meeting, that's a site visit for whatever that we're there, it doesn't have to be posted in the paper, we don't have to worry about the time in between,
Mhm.
it's just you fill in there,
Mhm.
Oh, I see.
you know, we've got something to do.
Second
We
Monday,
wanna go
or
look at it.
whatever it
Yeah.
is.
So if there's no task, you don't meet, but.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that Thursday night, you'd say, yeah, there's something we wanna go look at, and you'd go the following Monday, and then for the Thursday after that, you'd have your information.
Does that give you enough time to contact property owners or contractors or whatever you...
I could already prepare them in advance.
Yeah, the only
Because
people
you
that,
know that paper's coming.
for the
They
best
don't wanna
possible
notice, too.
location, you don't have to notify abutters, so there's no,
Yeah, I mean, somebody, the
Statutory
owner or the
limit.
contractor,
Right, yeah.
somebody representing the owner has to...
well, usually, well, there again, in the past, a lot of times we've had either the contractor or the homeowner come in for a best possible location, explain what it is they want to do.
But it's
Then
like-
after a while, it's just been pictures and, you know, Ken has got the information and he's presented it to us. And if everything looks copacetic and nobody has any issues, then we go with Ken's recommendation. If, like this last time, we had issues about what exactly was gonna get torn up, then we went out and had a site walk. So, you
It's
know.
been the exception rather than the rule to go on site.
Right.
Lately it has, yeah. Years ago, we used to go on a lot more sidewalks.
Everyone.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, that's similar to the other, other towns around, they go on all the sidewalks, but very few are aggressively moving them back. I think we're the only ones that really aggressively move all of them back.
Well, we've always, I mean, that's the main reason to do it.
Exactly.
In fact, the only reason to do it is, how far can you get this back without making the conditions worse?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole issue, it's too close to water to begin with. And, you know, if it's outside 100 feet, we don't care what the hell they do.
Yeah.
So, anybody too close to the water, we want to try and get them back as much as we can without cutting into the side of a cliff, you know, this type of deal. Or making things worse than they are. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a policy that says if a new foundation is to be put under an existing camp and the camp is to go through the best possible location process, that we look at it.
About
We take the
relocation.
sidewalk.
Generally, when we've taken the site walk, it's had more to do with the site than the project itself, is that correct?
Yeah.
How the
Yeah.
project will influence the site.
Yeah, because the project,
Because virtually all of them have to do.
the project isn't what our mandate is. Our mandate is how close is it to the water, how far away can we move it from the water? That's all it talks about. It doesn't talk about the size of it or the scope of it or anything else. How close is it to the water, how far can we put it back to the best practical extent? And that's all that we look at. And that's only with whatever's gonna be within the 100-foot setback. You know, half the
Because
place.
a lot of times they get out of the 100-foot setback and I tell them not to even bother here.
Right.
If there's room to move it, you're just wasting everybody's time when they get out of the 100-foot zone.
If there's room to move it, you pretty much suggest that, you know, this is what you're gonna have to do, so
Yeah.
go ahead and do it, otherwise, they're gonna make you do it anyway. Because he's gonna know right off the bat if, you know, if they can move it out of the shoreline, out of the 100-foot setback or not. And if they can't, that's where we can come into play. But there again, he's been in enough of these and he knows what's going on that,
Well, I usually explain it to the homeowners that you can go look. You may not want to move it back, but at least look, and if there's room to move it back, you know, realistically, you have to think, you gotta move it back.
right.
You may not want to, but at least go back and look, and if there's room to move it back, let's move it back.
Is anyone interested in my motion to second it, or
I'm
is it
thinking about it.
to? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure just if, you know,
I could read, somebody could help me come up with a clear.
Is there a second on
The
it?
actual
Or is it
motion.
died?
No, I would wish that the word relocation was in there, because you mentioned a new foundation, but that might not, you might just be going up with a new foundation. But
A new foundation, you have to relocate. A new foundation or a new home, you're relocating.
Or
Or,
what if, for
50%
instance, they'd
into-
already, since 1989 or whenever it was, they've already done their 30%, they've already put in a new foundation, all of a sudden, oh, my foundation's no good, the contractor did it wrong, or there's a big crack in it, I want a new one. They don't have to move back again, do they?
it would be best practical location, and the board could take into consideration the existing foundation, as far as the location, you're not forcing it. But if they're ripping that whole foundation out, yeah.
Then even if they already
Yeah, we had one that we did a relocation with, and the septic was fairly close, and then a bunch of houses burnt down, and he had to relocate again due to the septic configuration and stuff like that. The house was relocated differently, had porches and stuff like that, and when they did the redesign, it was skinnier and longer, and it moved back a little bit anyways. It was just a foot or two, but they had to come back through the process. We actually had a couple of them that we've done best possible locations. They burnt down and they had to come back, and most of them stay right in the same spot because they've already been moved back.
Because it's the best possible
Because
case
it is,
already.
yeah. There's no exemption that if you've been once, you're all set.
Okay.
So you have to come back and anyways.
maybe we can somehow tie it to the ordinance in some level of the impact of the project. You know, if it's a lot of the best possible locations, Ken describes the project, it's an innocuous looking site, Yeah, they're gonna move back, and it's good. And so we don't need to do a sidewalk on that, even if they're putting in a new foundation, in my opinion. But if it was on, like, we've been on, well, the first one that I went on, which was the, you know, where they're gonna build the road down the bank, up by Nooms, you know, there was a lot of questions about the site. And that's why.
Still are.
So, I mean, it's some, you know,
Could we,
some level of something tied into the ordinance that would trigger a sidewalk.
We can go anytime we want.
it's kind of,
It's up to us whether, you know, we can go anytime we want.
Well, then maybe Kenny's suggestion of, you know, the first Monday of the month as a regularly scheduled meeting, and you don't have to meet if you don't have any business.
Who determines if there is business though?
It would have to come through the board,
Come
you
through the
guys
board.
say,
And we
we
could
wanna
go,
go look at
and
this.
you'd say, we're gonna go look at the pump house on Monday the first.
You'd
it's
say
all-
we're going to go look at the pump house.
Someone would.
I'm just saying, here's the paper.
Right.
No, I know it.
the notion of how to word this
Yeah.
as a, what would it be, a bylaw?
I don't know that,
We need to do
well,
this.
I don't know that we need to do it, really. It's just, it's one more thing that, you know,
Well, when we vote as to whether or not we're gonna go on a sidewalk, when we make that
we don't
determination.
have to vote.
No, we didn't vote last time, but when we make the determination as a group and there's seeming consensus as to what we've determined, some individuals might still wanna go on the sidewalk and some definitely wouldn't after that determination and, you know, if we had this day, could just one person on the board go and look at the site? I mean, it may not be worth Kenny's time to go down there with me and to look at the site if I'm the only one interested, but if we had a day set up, I don't know.
I'm
Anybody?
not sure you can go as an individual, if it's not an official.
Right, that's why I'm saying, if we put into place a policy where they were being relocated and they needed a new foundation, a site walk was permissible, then the site walk would be on the first Monday, and if I was the only one who wanted to go, then I could, right? Is that, I mean, as an example,
No, that's pointless then. I mean,
no?
if we're gonna have a sidewalk, then everybody's gonna go, or everybody who can go is gonna go.
Yeah, because the paperwork would be coming to you guys on, say, the first Thursday of the month, and you'd say, we wanna go, or we don't wanna go. You're gonna make that decision that night, you don't wanna go, then it's pointless for you to go take a look at it, because the decision's already been made to move
Right.
it
Well,
33 feet or
and
whatever.
It's hard to know where the point is with going to look at it though, because sometimes there you are, talking with Richard, talking with the landowner, and something comes up in the discussion, and you have a conversation, and maybe that is pertinent somehow in the scheme of things.
the only two sidewalks that we've gone on recently, we've decided that there's too many issues to just go ahead and say, let's do it without going on a sidewalk. So, the both times we needed to, we have.
I guess, but there were other ones that I would have liked to have looked at, and I just, honestly, I didn't bring it up to the board, because I knew we weren't gonna go, but I was still interested in the site. I didn't feel like I had personally, could tell from the picture exactly what was going on, and, you know,
Well, if you have issues when we're looking at these things, then you gotta bring them up then.
well, sometimes it's not comfortable. I mean,
Okay, sure it is.
when it's obvious that no one else would support what you're gonna say, there's no
Well,
point in saying it.
We don't know that though until somebody brings something up and looks at the picture and says, hey, look at this. Because the reason we went to this one particular one was, we wanted to know, we had heard that some of the boat ramp was gonna be revegetated, removed. We didn't know exactly how much, and that was the big question that we all had, was the boat ramp.
Which in reality plays nothing to do with where the house is being relocated.
I know.
So, just out of his kindness, he was reducing that as much as possible. Because it was common sense for him, that
Right.
people are being more educated to know that. The keys to moving that thing back is where the road is and where the septic is.
Right.
That septic is pushed back as far, then you push that house back as far as you can to the septic.
Yeah,
And the
see, that's
configuration
something
of the
else we
house.
have to realize. We can't go down there and tell this guy how to redesign his damn house either. That's got nothing to do with us. What he wants to do, if he can legally do it, We give them the best spot to do it, and that's it. We can't say, you can't put, don't put this L on here, because it's not gonna suit the property, it's not gonna, that's out of our purview. All we can do is pick the best place to put this away from the water,
No closer to the lake than this amount, X amount.
and without making things worse. Like that first place we all looked at, digging into the side of the hill and digging a road down to get to it, was gonna create more trouble than, than it was worth. But that's all that we can look at. We can't, the design of the place and everything else, and specific LIDs you may need to use, it's out of our purview. We can't recommend, we can't, do anything.
Because, with the ordinance in place, the LID now, you've got a professional out there managing the stormwater and implementing the LIDs.
Right.
Which, assuming that individual knows much more than all of us.
That's not what I was honing in on. I wasn't honing in on that the board should be telling the landowner what to do. I was more trying to show the landowners that the town has concern for the lake enough, that the people are interested enough to see what they're doing, that there's more behind this.
They have to, Kenny has to go out to the site, take pictures, talk to
Okay,
them,
right, we don't
find
need
out
to
what
beat
they're
it to
doing.
death. I mean,
No,
I'm just trying to put it out there,
I understand, but then picking the criteria of what's gonna be the jump off point where we go or we don't go.
Well, I just thought it was it's something I came up with. It seemed like a line, foundation, no foundation, and it came into my head, and I thought,
Yeah, I know what you meant,
yeah, just to help clarify it, because sometimes I want to go look at the site and no one else does, and I don't know how you can help, but if they said, oh, there's a new foundation, well, I do have, a little more purview to look at it if we had that kind of line.
I have a hunch that in practice, in what we're doing, because we're seeing more marginal sites being developed, and Kenny may or may not agree with me there, through these best possible location permits, I think it might happen as a matter of course that we will decide to go on site visits as we see, as we move forward in the future with these things. I have a hunch, but, so
Yeah, there's,
maybe it's a hard thing to draw a line in the sand, I guess. When we were, Gavin and I were talking about this, and we were trying to come up with a threshold that you could say, this warrants a site visit, this does not warrant a site visit, but you have to see them, I guess.
they're all, every case is different.
Right,
I'm gonna have to look, or someone's gonna have to look into how we would go about having another date.
You just add it to the bottom of your header here.
To what?
Additionally scheduled meetings, you mean?
Yeah,
I think the chairman and the board just adds
We vote to add a,
first and third Monday, second and fourth.
So let's assume that nothing was going on, but yet there was a person out there who said, well, I'll come to that meeting because I have whatever topic to bring up, kind of a deal, and.
well, would we try and,
Site walks are conducted on such and such a day
Oh, there you go.
when
yeah,
required
but
needed.
you may, if we only have a certain day for site walks, and, we may not be able to get all of us there, or enough of us. we
You're
may
gonna
not
go
be
through
able to
that
get-
every time anyways. I
Pardon
can make it Wednesday, he can make it Sunday,
Yeah,
and
that's what-
the rest of us can do. But if everyone kind of agreed with the board members you had now, that Monday would happen within the last 2 times, I think,
Mhm.
Mondays, or Thursdays before the meetings or
Yeah.
something.
Well, that's great during the summer, it's tough during
Yeah, it is.
during 9 months of winter.
But you wouldn't be making some,
thought
he
you
doesn't
did
get these
so.
things across the desk.
And so the problem of doing it where, you kind of get together and say, all right, what do you think, let's do this, and let's go on this day, and everybody agrees, all right, Thursday's the best day. The problem with that is trying to line it up in the papers, is that What
Well,
about
if it was
the-
regularly scheduled meetings, we wouldn't have
To
to
make
be.
it simpler.
But then you'd have to schedule it, you know, for that day,
Correct.
you know,
You'd keep it
which
the
down the
same.
road, you never know what
Yeah,
kind of an issue that is.
Which, if it's the first Monday of the month,
you'd want
we've
two
already,
of
you know,
those.
some months we would already have missed it when we have our first meeting, and if we got a best possible occasion, that guy's gonna wait a whole month now to come around versus 2 weeks maybe. I don't know. I mean, you know, if.
Well, we could schedule 2 days and we wouldn't necessarily ever use one of them. It would just be certain months we'd use the third Monday and certain months we'd use the first Monday and certain months we wouldn't use either Monday. And maybe we'd use both one month, but it would be out there and we wouldn't have to.
It would be generated after the first meeting. The first meeting, you'd see something you wanted to take a look at, so you'd be going out on the,
2 weeks since,
yeah, the third Monday, or,
Right.
or a week after that meeting that you made the decision that it warranted a second. Could you do it that close? Yeah, you could if you did it.
if it was advertised as it, yeah.
You have to have,
And it would just be irregularly scheduled.
Yeah, maybe what we ought to do is have,
say we'll.
like, the second
Oh, yeah.
Right.
and fourth Mondays of the month, say we want to use Monday. Have
Yeah.
the second, fourth Mondays of the month reserved for BPL sidewalks, or just for sidewalks. That way, you know, we have 2 chances during the month, we could move things along a little bit
Oh, yeah.
quicker. The whole point is to do it quicker, then that's,
Efficiently.
yeah.
So if we start.
But it's in our bylaws as far as when we meet, so we're gonna have to, I just wanna find out how to change the bylaws. I don't know if we can
It
just,
should be in the bylaws themselves, right?
maybe we can just, you know, say, take a vote and say we're gonna do this, so maybe we gotta go through some
So if
rigmarole.
we start looking at all these, are you guys gonna want mileage reimbursement?
Yes.
Not me.
Just, so we know for the budget.
Um,
Designated drivers. We'll get a
I think we had 5 or 6 guys up there,
Let's buy a
Yeah.
for hotels.
Well, Kenny will have to add it on. His mileage.
We'll take that.
He's still waiting for a second on his motion, I think.
It died for lack of a second, as far as I can tell.
I think
Because you would have
we're
a
trying
second.
to get to a second motion.
You would have a second right away, and then we'd discuss it. Well, we discussed it, nobody seconded it, so it's history.
Most things are.
Everything becomes.
That's,
There's 20 minutes of overtime.
Well, yeah, I know, this is, that's what this one is.
Should we try for a motion on the Mondays or just let it go?
I don't care.
Do you need to figure out about changing?
The bylaws.
Yeah, let me find out that info.
Why don't we,
What I have to do to change
why don't
it.
we think on it for a couple of weeks?
In fact, I'll have the secretary find out about it.
We just take a vote to change the bylaws.
I don't know.
I make a motion that we take a vote to change the bylaws to add sidewalks on the first and third Mondays of each month if applicable.
Yeah, it could be public hearing and stuff like
All
that.
kinds of time, you gotta have 75% usually.
All right.
We'll review it and
Is that enough fun?
Don't take it personally.
No, I don't think I can make motions, that's the problem.
Yeah,
I'm trying, but.
There's a
Injury.
lot of us tonight.
You can make a motion for the adjournment.
Yeah,
I'll second.
that's a good one.
All right,
You didn't find it?
see if you can email the answer once you get this. Take a chance to go through this, and make sure you got the September one in your hand next time, so we can start going through this and deciding what's good and what still needs to be fixed. Because we're gonna have to start cracking on
Right.
bringing something to the selectmen and public hearings.
At one point, let's at least try to decide at one point, we were knocking around at what is the criteria for level of design ability.
When what level of design professional is required?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty much laid out in there, but we have to review it.
Yeah, whoever can find it first gets $1.
Right.
It laid out in the draft ordinance, you mean, Tom, or in the manual?
It would be
Somewhere.
in the draft ordinance. The JT is more or less delineated a line that would correlate to Jen's incidental versus non-incidental. The criterion is level.
Good night, cable